So with skyrocketing energy prices, what do you think there's anything that the city council can do to help their constituents out?
There's perhaps nothing more important from a building standpoint right now than readdressing what our guidelines are for building energy efficient structures. We're not making the necessary changes to our building code to address the challenges that we face, and that is an absolute lack of leadership and oversight on behalf of our current city council. I've served now as on the Environmental Commission for Olmsted County for about 3 years, and I have experience in both electrical engineering and business administration, and I'm particularly adept at working the numbers, understanding the related finance associated with energy savings and energy efficiency, and I understand that there's a lot more things that we can do cost effectively in the community than we currently are doing. I am a proponent of a standard known as the LEED building standard. It's essentially the gold standard for green building. I would like to see any building with any associated tax subsidy or variance granted be absolutely required to address LEED certification and LEED qualifications. I believe that the people who work for our city, part of their job should be understanding the latest requirements for green building and implementing it into our structures. This is not something that's going to cost money. This is something that's going to save us a fortune. We need to realize that when we're putting up a structure, we're building that structure for 100 years right now, and the amount of cost savings associated with saving just a little bit of energy is enormous. An investment of an extra 5% in a building up front can save enormous amounts over the life of that building, and that's what we need to be doing. We're not reevaluating our building codes. We're not making the changes that are necessary. There are some things I think we should be looking at for possibility of use in just about every structure. I think we should be looking at whether geothermal heating and cooling is appropriate. In most cases, I think you'll find that it would be. We need to be looking at insulation. We need to have R60 ceilings and R29 walls for every structure that we build. We need energy efficient lighting. We need energy efficient appliances. We need real-time pricing from RPU. We need to end any subsidies, direct or indirect, from RPU or any incentives to consume more energy. We need to reward people for conserving, not punish them for conserving. And we need to not only apply this to energy efficiency, but also water efficiency. We've seen enormous swaths of the nation that never thought that they'd have water issues have incredible water issues. To the south of us in Nebraska, there's talk that it may return to the desert that once was. In the southeastern United States, in Georgia, there's talk of trying to forcibly redraw straight lines to give them access to new water sources because they are in such severe drought. It's not just energy efficiency, it's water efficiency. And these shouldn't be particularly controversial items, and it just takes a little bit of leadership at the top to steer us in the right direction. But right now, we are driven by developers, and developers don't make money by putting energy efficient design in place. They make money by building the cheapest building possible and selling it quickly so they don't have to pay the energy costs. I recently had a back and forth with Joe Wojcik at a council meeting, which a lot of you have probably seen, about the energy efficiency associated with his building at 5th and 3rd in Southeast. And he was telling me how he received awards for putting window air conditioners in the building, and saying how great that was. Well, actually that's pretty poor design. That goes back, it's out of date. There are a lot of things that could have been done to that building to make it more energy efficient, and when you're getting tax subsidies and variances to do projects like this, it's absolutely imperative that you meet standards that address the current challenges that we have. So on the City Council, I would be the #1 proponent for energy efficiency, and I wouldn't take it too far. I'm very pragmatic, I'm very reasonable, and if something is not truly going to have payoff, if it's not worth doing, then we can look at maybe delaying our decisions on that and not changing the standards. But certainly some of the things that I mentioned, they're no-brainers, they're things that we should be doing anyways, and they save us a fortune in terms of not just the energy savings, but all the peak plants that we have to build, and building additional energy plants and building additional transmission lines. These are enormously expensive projects, and we don't need to be doing them. Back in the 1970s, one last thought I'll give you in closing. California and the rest of the U.S. kind of went on a different direction. The U.S. All of a sudden, we had cheap oil, and we had new administration in power in 1980, and they decided that energy efficiency was no longer an issue, it was no longer necessary. And as a result, the United States as a whole it now consumes 60% more electricity than we did back then. California went down a different path. They knew that they had additional challenges they were facing as a state, and they focused on energy efficiency, and they used the same amount of electricity today they did then. You know what? California is not in a recession. It hasn't fallen into a wasteland. They're doing very well. Their economy by itself would be the 13th largest in the world. And yet they're doing a tremendous amount of energy savings. Now some people say, well, energy is more expensive there. Well, the reality is they use so much less that their utility bills, it's not much different than ours, but they're doing it a lot more responsibly, and that's what we need to be doing here.